Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Reviews with Tyberius D. And for the first time, we have got a massive audience going on here from the prior shows and what we've been doing ahead of time. So let me just put this in perspective. Welcome to Reviews with Tyberius D, and today we're going to be talking about the Star Trek TV shows. So that's going to be interesting. We're going to be giving quite a bit of a review. Yeah. Okay, it's massive because usually when I do the review show, we only have like 3 or 4 people because a lot of people don't know the show. So yeah, we're still building out. So definitely give us some subs. Let us know what you guys are doing. But yeah, we've got an active chat and all that, so it's going to be some good times. But anyway, without further ado, or before we get there, I want to do a quick couple of intros. Don't pay me any money. Yeah. Okay, chat's already getting weird. Anyway. So before we get there, I just want to make a few things. We'll be heading off to vacation here soon, but should have everything recorded or mostly recorded. And I want to give people a couple of shout outs because we are almost at 1,600 followers on Twitch. We're growing steadily. People are liking what we're doing. And we currently have 77 active subscribers, which means that each person has given me $5, which I get like $2.30 out of. So, the Patreon community is growing, doing a lot better than it was, and I want to thank the community for that. So, basically, the content that I bring to you guys has been brought to you by Fallen Or, Andy Wagner, The West Dude, Julia, Ron Cleveland, Drew, Ace Man, Kamikaze, Samantha, Leah, and Shadow Fox. It's been absolutely a pleasure to have all of you guys helping me out, throwing me a couple bones. And I apologize, I forgot to shout out to Revolt Rise. We've had a lot of people supporting us, have been coming back over the last month or two, kind of showing up, giving us some good credibility, helping us out financially. And I want to thank the people for doing that because I know, I know that, in today's economy, that's not necessarily the easiest thing to do. But I know you're out there. I want to give you a shout out. And I thank you all very much for helping out this community. And being here in chat, being involved in what we're doing. So, without further ado, let's talk Star Trek, right? I'm going to talk about the main 5 shows. We're going to largely leave out, We're going to largely leave out Picard and Lower Decks. I will mention them a little bit, but considering they're in production still, I don't want to talk about a lot of them because first seasons are always a little rough. And that's quite a lot going on. So the first show that we have is released in 1967, and that is the original Star Trek, the original series. This is Picard. This is Spock. This is Kirk, and basically the whole crew. Okay, it's 6-7 core characters. We have Kirk, Spock, Dr. McCoy, Lieutenant Uhura, Chekhov, Sulu, and Scotty. Is your primary. You've got a few side characters that'll be addressed there. But this show is basically a cult classic. I haven't watched every single episode. I watched quite a bit of it growing up in the 90s. I remember a few episodes I don't. The problem is that the social context between the 60s and the 90s was quite significantly different. And it got significantly worse because if you're trying to watch it now, the show's almost, the show is over 50 years old. And it's quite a bit dated, not only visually and optically, even with the remastered versions, but, between production values, the assets, all of that, it's kind of hard to watch. But also, a lot of the storylines, the stuff that's very humanist is still very easy to watch, still very comprehensive, but a lot of the conversations that have been had during those days, particularly the race motif with the different faces in that episode, I would like to think a lot of us have moved past the point of having that particular conversation. It's moved into something newer, something more. And that, quite a bit going on there, right? So, at least in my take here is that it's showing its age. And that's unfortunate, but that's part of it. So it's really hard to rewatch. But there's some episodes that we can talk about. And if you guys have your favorite episodes that you want to talk about in the chat, feel free to post that up. What episodes do you like? Which episodes do you remember? Because there's quite a few of them that people are very happy with. Obviously, the Khan episode is pretty big. And you'll have that definitely pay off with the Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, which we already did, we did the review of the overarching review of. But anyway, I can't separate it out into seasons because I don't remember. I don't remember quite a bit about what each show did, or I'm sorry, each season did. It's just been that long. But what I will tell you is, let me give this a quick look at. I'm just going to bring up this 10. I want to talk about like some of the favorite episodes if I can. Okay, yeah. So, excuse me. I'm just going to go down the 15 top rated episodes according to Screen Rant. The Mirror Jane, or the Mirror Journeyer. I can't remember what this is off the top of my head. I think this is part of the Cage. Yeah, I think this is the Cage. Parts 1 and 2, because it's got Pike in it. But anyway, long story short, I don't remember this episode too well, so I'm going to skip it. The Squire of the Goths. This is when Goth Vizar comes out. No. This is Traylane, which is basically Q of his era, shows up. That's kind of an interesting episode. I don't remember that very well. But I do remember this one. 13 out of 15, The Enemy Within. Season 1, Episode 6. Kirk, due to a transporter episode, is split into two people, where one of them is good Kirk, one of them is bad Kirk. And that is an absolutely wonderful episode, because you see Kirk, you see the bad side of him and the good side of him all in one case. And you kind of get a balance of who Kirk is as a character, because without his bad side, he loses a lot of his authority and a lot of his ability to go out and, command, because it takes a strong sense of self that usually a lot of people, talk about when it comes from your bad side. That strong sense of self and self-discipline and what you want comes from some things people feel negative. And it was really interesting because the good side of Kirk is kind of a wuss. And that was a really interesting play on that. And you kind of see how he needs to balance. And I hate to say this, but there's a scene in there that gets, I'm not going to say like goes into rape, but it gets a little rapey. He pretty much tries to force his way onto a, what do you call it? There was a nurse, I think, that he tries to force his way onto. And it's really dark. And holy crap, if that episode was out today, oh my god. The next one is Journey to Babel. I gotta remember what this one is. I know Surak's in it and his wife, and you have Surak and Spock is in it. I'm not remembering this one too well. What was it? Vulcans, humans, Andorians, and Tellarites all up here. And there was a murder, but I don't remember that too well. The Combine Maneuver, which one is this one? Enterprise experiences a mysterious alien intent on attacking it. Thanks to Kirk's complete outmaneuvers its assault. I'm not good. Okay, so let that be your last battlefield. This is season 3, episode 15, and that is the Faces. That is the racism episode that a lot of people remember. I do remember that. It has a lot of it has a lot about tolerance. It has a lot about identity. It has a lot about race, as terms of a lot of that actually reveals kind of the underlying undertones of that episode. I do remember that quite well, but I do feel like there's quite a bit of that that's kind of moved past. We're in a different paradigm as far as the social critique of that. And so, is it still relevant? Yes. Is it an amazing episode? It's not bad, but I feel like it's just a little dated. 9 out of 15, The Trouble with Tribbles. Fucking hate this episode. I don't know why it's so remembered. Like, literally, DS9 did the 30th anniversary episode where they go into this episode, and I just want to rip my eyes out. I hate this episode. It's lame. So no thank you. Let's see. The next one is Taste of Armageddon. Represents... I don't know this one. Okay, number 7, Balance of Terror. This one's pretty solid. This is when the Romulans are introduced, and with the cloaking device, and they're able to just one-shot whatever they go across. That's actually a really good episode, because it shows that there's a lot more to the Vulcans. There's the Romulans, which are a very interesting nemesis. It's a very interesting build-out. They're basically like Neo-Romans in space, which is kind of interesting. But as a general level, is sneaky, subterfuge, has some pretty good personal conflict going on about it. It's very inquisitive to Spock's character. Operates really well. I don't remember it amazingly well, but I definitely would rewatch it again. It's pretty good stuff. The next one, the Doomsday Machine. I don't know if anyone doesn't remember this episode. Basically, the Enterprise comes against a machine that is basically a planet destroyer. I don't remember if it destroys planets, but I think it destroys like a couple of different starships. And then you have Captain Decker or whoever his name is, run his ship into it, and it does a little bit of damage. I don't even remember the climax, to be honest, but it's a nice little action episode for a really old show. I already referenced this one. Space Seed, Ricardo Montalban is Khan, and just knocks it out of the park. It's his acting thing. He's so good that they'll bring him in to be the villain of movie 2. It's really good. You see Kirk and Khan go at it, and Khan, as a genetically engineered Superman, is kicking ass, and it really opens up the door on eugenics, and it really opens the door on genetic engineering, particularly even in the 1960s. It's a really interesting episode, and it still has a lot of relevance today, maybe more than any other episode, simply out of the fact that we still haven't done genetic engineering to a large degree. The next one is on this list is the Enterprise incident. Let's see. The Federation may have outlawed cloaking technology by the time, but the original series is very much favored. So this is where they meet the Romulans for the second time. I don't remember this episode very well, and I apologize for that. It's just been a long time. Let's see. Number 3 is Amok Time. We see the Ponfar. Okay, yeah. This is where Spock gets horny as fuck. I can't not laugh at this particular episode, so I can't talk about it too much. Number 2, The City on the Edge of Forever. This is my favorite episode, and it is the most story, character-driven episode that I remember from the original episode. It's season 1, episode 29. Holy crap, that's a big season. Kirk travels back in time with Spock to stop McCoy because McCoy is drugged out and tripping balls. And this is the whole Gate Guardian thing, right? Where they travel through time. And it's very memorable. Anyway, what happens is that McCoy saves a woman in history that makes the Nazis win World War II. Interesting old history, whatever have you. Okay. Kirk goes back with with Spock to try to stop him, and they figure out the point. They jump a little bit ahead, and what happens is they meet a woman named Edith Keeler, and she is just a visionary of her time. Looks very far in the future, super humanist. Would you find anyone actually like that back in the day? They'd probably be an outcast, but she's really cool. Very good heart of humanity. Anyway, her storyline eventually ends up being revealed that she ends up becoming a massive power within the FDR administration and preaches like nonviolence and tolerance and all that. And she actually makes the United States too nice to where they're not remotely even prepared for World War II, and the Axis wins. And so what has to happen is that McCoy would have saved her being back in the past and slowly like getting off the drugs, is that he just does the right thing. And it's a really interesting character examination of Kirk and Spock and McCoy, because are we not supposed to keep up Tiberius? I'm confused. Where are you in chat? I'm watching right now. A lot of people aren't chatting, and the Ponfar is funny, yes. But nothing I've seen that I really wanted to comment on, and I apologize. But anyway, going out, you guys can do largely what you want. Anyway, going on with what we're talking about here is that it's a really interesting. Cheers. Are you leaving? I hope not. It's been absolutely fun to engage with you in chat, EOD. But anyway, it's a really interesting conversation in human morality, because it's basically the trolley problem in a nutshell. Will you let this wonderful woman die named Edith Keeler so that the world can have a better future? And what what makes it all the worse is that Kirk actually falls in love with her. And it's not sold very well. It's only like a 30, these shows are only like 30 minutes or an hour. And so I'm not really wholly sold on the relationship, but he does pretty good acting actually to show that the Kirk seems to like her, if not love her or care for her. And he has to let her go and actually get run over by a goddamn car and stop Bones from saving her. And it's like, I could have saved her. And then it's a really emotionally impactful episode, and it's actually one of the better acted ones from both, particularly William Shatner and the actor for Bones. Give me a second here. I forget his name. DeForest Kelly. They both act these characters very well, and it gets into a really big ethical conversation. What happens if you save the life of somebody that brings death and suffering to more people? And this is where I get into a lot of political trouble with a lot of people, is that, I'm okay with saying this isn't my fight. I'm okay with saying, you know what, just because you do something, even if I have the power to stop you, that means I should. Sometimes not doing anything is a choice into itself that needs to be respected. And so anyway, where I'm getting with this is that it questions the morality of the victim complex, where if you always have the power to do something, should you? Because you innately have to assume that in the event that you take responsibility in saving somebody, or if you will, like making somebody's life better or what have you, you are responsible for all the effects that come down the line. And that's a great moral dilemma because, and to some degree, a lot of people are really weird when this conversation comes up because, if you're there, you have to save them, you have to do what you can to help. But if you're not there, who gives a fuck? Or if you save somebody who does something horrible, well, that's on them. And that makes no logical moral consistency for me at all. Is that, this whole victim mentality of, okay, if you're not doing the right thing, then you're the bad person, you're an enabler. Fuck that shit. And I think this episode really puts that to the test, is that sometimes there is no right decision, there is no good decision, and you have to accept that sometimes your fight, another person's fight is not your own. Looks like I'm bleeding viewers. Hooray! But yeah, anyway. The final episode that gets really interesting for people is Mirror Mirror, and of course that's one of people's favorites. I don't like this episode as much, but it does kind of entertain the idea, what happens if the Federation is mean and evil and a dictatorship and all kinds of horrible shit. It doesn't really explore it that well. It's more of an exploration into Kirk and the central cast, and particularly Spock. And so it could have been better. It could have been worse. It probably should have been a two-parter, if not, honestly, it should have been a series focus, or a season focus, is that you could have gone, all right, cool, you would have visited from time to time, and it would have been a very much an interesting thing of that. And yes, I will agree with that. Section 31 is an exploration of that. It's very mini-series. Yes, absolutely agree. But anyway, to give you my general thoughts in a nutshell of to give my general thoughts in a nutshell of the original series, it's not a bad series by any stretch of the imagination. It's not a bad show, but it's really dated, and it does show that to a large degree, and it's unfortunate. It could have been better, could have been worse, but I enjoyed it, and I can live with that. So let's get into the next one, and this one I remember very well. I watched pretty much the next next 4 shows within the last 2 years, and I nailed them all out, and they're still pretty fresh in the memory. The next show comes out in 1987, if I remember correctly. And that, of course, is Star Trek The Next Generation, and we have quite a sizable cast. It actually waxes and wanes a little bit. We have Patrick Stewart as Captain Jean-Luc Picard, Jonathan Frakes as Commander William Riker. You have Marina Sirtis as Counselor Troy. You have, give me a second. She changed her name. It was, give me a second. It's the Dr. Crusher. Give me a second. Gates McFadden as Dr. Crusher. Geordie LaForge is LeVar Burton. Michael Dorn is Worf. Who am I forgetting? Will Wheaton is Wesley Crusher. I think I got it. And then Whoopi Goldberg is Guinan. Tasha Yar is not really much of a character in this show. I'm sorry. Tasha Yar actually dies in season 1, and then she'll come back for. I missed Data. Yeah, true, I did. Give me a second here. Yeah, Tasha Yar isn't much of a character. She'll come back for yesterday's Enterprise, but give me a second. Brent Spiner as Data. Yes, it's got a big cast, and the worst part is some of it changes. Gates McFadden will leave for season 2 and be replaced by another person, and then she'll come back for season 3. It's really weird, that whole change, and then some characters kind of move and get added. You'll have I can't remember the actress who does this, but Lieutenant Ro Laren will come in on season 6 and 7, and she'll be quite interesting. You'll have Miles O'Brien was mentioned, who is a side character who will become a main character for DS9. I can't remember what his name is for the actor for that, and I apologize to him because he's a great actor. I just yeah. Anyway, I'm starting to run Cole Meany. Okay, yeah. So anyway, let's get into the show. It is set almost 100 years after the original series, and it's basically Star Trek 2.0. At first, it doesn't look very good, and the first seasons are true. I could talk. Yeah. I absolutely agree with that last comment in chat. Anyway, there's a lot to be said about TNG. I literally will do my own episode on TNG just itself, but let's give it the highlight reel. Season 1 through 3 is kind of rough. There's definitely some story problems and story elements going on behind the scenes, and part of it is that they just don't really have a general focus. Gene Roddenberry wants certain things to be about the show, and he hates he hated character drama actually, because he wanted humanity to be beyond that kind of thing in the 24th century, and it just doesn't work very well. It's unfortunate, but largely as you see Gene's health decline, you actually start seeing a lot more personal-driven stories, particularly started taking off in Season 3, getting into Season 4, and the show kind of gets better as gets better without him, and I hate to say that. He's got a great setting, but his whole thing is kind of a little ridiculous. But anyway, Ro is supposed to be Kira in DS9. Interesting. We'll get there. Anyway, so Season 1 is it's kind of a flying by the seat of your pants kind of thing. There's some really good episodes in it. Some episodes that are really forgettable. It all opens up with Encounter at Farpoint, and it's not bad. It's okay. You get introduced to the characters. The problem with Encounter for Farpoint is that it's a little goofy. Like, Act 1 is solid, Act 2 is slow as crap, but then Act 3 is pretty solid. I really get the sense that that episode, or that show, was extended, and it was actually just supposed to be like a quick introduction, roll through it. The first season episode that really sticks out to me is the one where is the first episode featuring the holodeck, where Picard is playing, he's playing a detective, and I can't remember much about it off the top of my head exactly what happens, but he plays, it's, excuse me, Barclay and Q are deserving of mention. We'll definitely get there. Definitely don't let me forget there. But anyway, wrapping out the first season is, not wrapping up the first season, but the first season as a whole is that the one that steps out for me is where Picard is a detective from a novel in the holodeck, and he's trying to study for this presentation, and he has to give it at the very end. It's just ridiculous, but of course, it's the one time he doesn't say engage, and he says step on it to end the episode. Now it's a fun little episode that completely takes you out of the Star Trek, but it's kind of an exploration of these characters. And I do enjoy that, kind of because it's character drama that isn't Star Trek for this opening show. And that's unfortunate, but it kind of shows the problems with the first season or two, is that there's not enough character drama, and that one stretches out. Yes, I will get to Barclay. He's not till season 3, if I remember right. But I will mention Q. He is the antagonist in the opening episode of Encounter at Farpoint, and Q is a weird character. He's done very poorly at first. He's basically a psychopath. He's basically a all-powerful psychopath. But he does kind of he's very interesting in that he puts humanity on trial. And that storyline does come full circle with All Good Things that wrap up the series, which I've got a lot to say about that. So, without further ado, ending out season 1, kind of rough. If someone wants to throw out any highlight episodes for any particular season, let me know. I'll eventually get there. But yeah, we're wrapping up season 1. Just isn't that great. Getting into season 2, it starts to take off better. Riker becomes Riker becomes a hell of a better character, almost right off the bat. He's got a beard, looks more mature, starts acting more responsible. And Riker is best served in season 2 of propagating his character into the future, and you start seeing more character-driven stories. The season finale of 2 is the worst of the season finales. It's really weird and kind of strange, and it's the one where Troy gets pregnant, and then she has this like rapidly aging kid. It's an interesting exploration into her character, but yeah, it could have been better. I want to bring up my thing here real quick just to see where it goes. No, I'm sorry. Shades of Grey is where Riker falls into a coma with a degrading microbe. I apologize for that. I thought it was a different episode. Season 2, the child is the start of season 1 or season 2. I apologize. Sorry. I am just looking over here. Elementary, My Dear Data, where Data adapts the character of Sherlock Holmes, is quite interesting. That's the first time that we see that. Just going over a couple of these. Unnatural Selection, where they come across a serious disease that naturally ages all of them. That's actually not a bad one. Oh, I'm glad I looked. The Measure of a Man, season 2. I was thinking it was season 3. Everyone knows this episode. This is where Data is put on trial to see if he is sentient or deserving of rights of the Federation, and everyone knows this episode. It's a wonderful, it's a wonderful episode. Basically exploring what do we call life, what do we call sentience, what do we determine is the value of intelligence, and the ability to critically think, and basically the human experience in a nutshell. The wonderful episode explores many, many themes, and I wish this episode could have been longer, had a lot more to do with that. Time Squared is where they get stuck in a time loop, and Picard gets in a shuttle, and he basically keeps trying to save the Enterprise, but ends up destroying it. They eventually end up showing that Picard has to stop the cycle by basically killing his older self, and breaking the cycle and doing something different. And it kind of shows you, it makes you question if the decisions that you make, are they actually going to help you, or do you keep making the same decisions over and over again that get you screwed, even though you have seen that it doesn't work? And it could have done better at that. I think it would have been a lot more memorable if it had focused on that theme and that message of saying, hey, look, you can't just keep doing the same thing. And so, yeah, it's very good. Yay, we're down to bleeding viewers again. I need to just turn that off. Give me just a second. Turn that off. Don't worry about it. Okay, cool. Next one is Q-Hue, and this is where we get to the Borg, and we get introduced to them, and they are basically the antithesis of all of humanism and all of humanity all in one. Fantastic antagonist for the Federation that we get introduced to. Unfortunately, a lot of the things will come full circle later, but very menacing villain, very interesting. I think that wraps up season 2 for the way that I want to do it. Because this is where the show starts getting good, is in season 3. So let's talk about season 3. Okay, cool. I'll definitely go into more detail when we do the episode of this, but I'm just kind of hopping over this. Evolution's fun, where no, I'm sorry. I thought that was the one where the Enterprise crew keeps getting mutated and becoming a bunch of things. Born Prophecy about wokeism. That's an Orville episode. I'll talk about that at some other point. The Instance of Command. Not quite one I want. Who watches the Watchers? I love this episode. Season 3. Mistakenly believing Picard to be a god, the members of a primitive culture seize Counselor Troy and prepare to sacrifice her. That is the one with the Minoans. Or I think it's called the Minoans. Don't remember exactly. But they're basically another offshoot of the Romulans. And the absolutely fantastic one because it shows why the Prime Directive exists. I don't necessarily agree with the Prime Directive personally, but it's a really good exercise into why that's a thing. The enemy Enterprise crashes with a Romulan warship while trying to rescue Geordi Forge from a desolate planet. Pretty good episode. Definitely worth watching. It is true. Good to see you, Jeremy. Pretty good episode. It shows what if you should have compassion for your enemies, and if put into a dire situation, can you work together to overcome obstacles? And it's great. The Defector, also amazing episode. A Romulan Defector leads the USS Enterprise in a daily face-off that could erupt into a full-scale war. Basically, what happens is the Romulans trick one of their admirals into believing that they're going to launch a war against the Federation and basically invade, and he defects to try to protect the lives of his family and stop a war. Turns out it was a bunch of bullshit, and it's very very sad to what happens to this character, but it's a very human motivation that, you know, what are you willing to give up to protect the lives of your family and your children. And so yeah, it's good stuff. Deja Q, when Q loses his powers, it's kind of more of a hijinks episode, but it's not too bad. A Matter of Perspective. This one's good. A widow accuses Riker of seducing her and killing her husband. A respected scientist, the crew constructs a holodeck situation to show the events and perspectives of that. It's basically Riker on trial, and then you eventually figure out that what largely happens here is that he was trying to kill Riker out of jealousy, but it shows the different perspectives of what people think happens and what actually happens. And that's actually a wonderful episode in perspective, which is why it's called that. Wonderful, very good stuff. Of course, the next episode is Yesterday's Enterprise, and that makes you... It's more of a romp through, like, you know, just like, hey, you know, what happens if the Federation was at war, and da-da-da, you know, what happens if Picard's a military man, and Starfleet was militarized. But what it really actually... The hidden meaning within this particular episode is, did your choices, or, you know, what the choices that you make, you know, how they ripple through time, where the Enterprise C has one choice to make, whether to stay and fight now or stay in the fight ahead of time. And I believe it's pretty much put ahead by Picard. Now, one ship will make a difference, but 20 years ago, it can make all the difference. And that's kind of the hidden meaning in this. The next episode after that is also amazing. Season 3 really just takes off, and that is The Offspring. Data becomes a father and becomes basically makes an android daughter. It's a wonderful little episode about you know, being a parent and kind of exploring the notions of what that entails. And it really gets good when yet again Starfleet says, no, I'm going to take your child, and we're going to do excuse me. It's also a really good episode and introflexion as to, you know, when Picard stands up to Starfleet and is like, I will fight you. You are not going to hand over, or none of my crew is going to hand over their kid while I'm their captain. And he openly fights an admiral in that one, and it's really good. But of course, it's meaningless because she dies anyway, which is really sad. But you actually feel for two androids, or at least the characters that they're portrayed for. And to answer the question, Yesterday's Enterprise, yes, but also what happened to the Enterprise C? It's destroyed at the Battle of Narendra 3. What happens is that the time vortex allows the Enterprise C to escape and basically join the Enterprise D far in the future. But without their sacrifice, the sacrifice of the Enterprise C and most of her crew, is that the Klingons don't learn to respect the Federation because the Federation was willing to sacrifice their own selves, their lives, and their ship for Klingon refugees. And that absolutely makes excuse me, that absolutely has a massive thing about one, the relationship between the Klingon Empire and the Federation has a lot to do with what is going on with the events that are made. Basically, how much what the actions that you commit, how much they reverberate through time, and how much they can change things. There's a lot of hidden meanings in that episode. That's really good. But yeah, and then I think I talked about the Offspring's pretty good stuff. Sins of the Father, another great episode where Worf and his brother Kern defend their family honor. Turns out that the Duras family had set them up. Good episode. I don't remember that episode going in. Let me see. Some of these aren't the best in the world. I don't want to talk about all of them. But I'm just jumping ahead. Sarek, Season 3, Episode 23, is Sarek becomes incredibly temperamental. He's losing his mind, but he has one last mission to complete. And this is where you have a mind meld with Picard, and Picard has that whole emotional outpouring where he's screaming and he's very emotional, and it's just amazing acting. Like, it's showing Picard at his best acting, and it's in Season 3, where Sarek is just falling apart, and he has to sacrifice, Picard sacrifices his mental and emotional stability so that Sarek can complete the mission. And you find out a lot of backstory, where he talks about, like, Picard, as Sarek in his mind, is talking about Spock, and saying that he loves him. And it's just a wonderful emotions. And of course, this will pay off massively when we see Spock in Season 5. And so, absolutely great episode. Could have been great. And of course, I'm going to skip over to The Best of Both Worlds Part 1. And we'll definitely hit The Best of Both Worlds Part 2. It's a really good episode. It's lost a lot of its meaning because, and I've said this many times regarding my reviews, having the big plot points, having the big reveals, having the big twists, they're always really good, but they only last for that time, right? And the problem is that you can make a lot of emotional impact in that plot where you're like, wow, man, that was amazing. But you will never be able to recapture that twice. And so once you realize you can move past that and you rewatch the episode where you already know what's going to happen, it's good, but it's not as good, and it never will be. But if you have a character-driven moments and plot-driven moments that are revolving around the characters and what they do, absolutely is wonderful. And unfortunately, The Best of Both Worlds has both. Or fortunately, they have both. But a lot of the reasons why it's remembered so well, and it's usually the number one episode for people, is that suspense of waiting a whole summer to find out if Picard was going to be leaving the show, because he actually hadn't renewed his contract and everyone knew it. And basically, a long story short is that there was a lot of things with the cliffhanger and waiting till the next season to figure out what was going to happen. And Picard, literally, the end of the episode is Mr. Worf fired. Very suspenseful, very well done, but it doesn't have nearly the impact if you literally can just pick it up and watch the next episode. So, why is this episode still good? Because it is a massive character exploration into Riker. This episode is fantastic for Riker because it starts out, Riker is, criticizing himself over the fact that he's hanging up. He's hanging up where he wants to be a captain, and now he's been offered the captaincy multiple times. This is like third time, and he's still first officer of the Enterprise, and he's just like, what am I doing? And so he's going through some of these he's going through a bit of a personality crisis. And you've got a young Lieutenant Commander Shelby, who is very ambitious, very bold, and you kind of see Riker come to his own, where he's actively. It does carry into future episodes. We'll talk about the next one actually here in a moment, but it's not as good as I think a lot of people give credit to. But anyway, Riker comes to his own because he's forced to take command, and you're supposed to see what he will do in the chair, and he shows, particularly to Shelby, that there is a difference between wanting command and being ready for it. And I wish they would have focused on this just a little more, but they do a pretty good job with it, where a lot of people, or like Shelby institutes that Riker isn't willing to take the big risk anymore. He's gotten soft, basically. And that all comes to a head at the end of part 1, where I don't have time to save Picard. I have to make the hard decision. Mr. Worf, fire. And he shows that he's willing to handle the responsibility when lives are on the line, even if somebody is getting sacrificed. He is trying to do the right thing, and sometimes doing the right thing and looking out the safety of everyone means that unfortunately some people die, and bad things happen. Where Shelby is not willing to give up on Picard, and it's like, oh, there's still more time. Oh, we need to do this, and it's a wonderful, wonderful episode in the first part 1 regarding Riker's character. Absolutely does wonderful. And yes, I am still up, Yori. I am still up. So yeah, going in with that, you get into the part 2, which is doesn't focus nearly as much on Riker. Largely focuses on moving forward and just rescuing Picard, stopping the Borg. Does pretty well. That more actiony. Doesn't really have the character moments that Picard. I'm gonna watch some TNG. Cheers, chat. Be around. Hey, have a great night, everybody, or everyone who's still leaving or still here. But yeah, we're wrapping this up, moving forward because we're already at 41 minutes, and this is turning into a TNG review. All right, speeding this up, start knocking this out. Best of Both Worlds Part 2. Okay, Family is a really good episode, and that's right after where Picard has to deal with the trauma. And unfortunately, it only lasts for 1 episode, and it really bothers me a lot of that. And I'm just going to skip over most of season 4 to say that this really upsets me a lot. And that Picard's problems do not really impact beyond that outside of a few random incidents going forward, and that makes me very sad. And so, yeah, I'm just jumping ahead. I'm not seeing anything that I really want to get to until the Drumhead. This is the end of season 4. This is true. I do have to talk about that in season 5. We'll get there. Anyway, season 4, the only other episodes I want to talk about is the Drumhead, where there's a trial going on again, and they're talking about what happens if you have... it kind of gets into ethnocentrism a little bit, where a person is just trusted because he has the blood of a Romulan in him. He's like 1/3, or like 1/2 Romulan or 1/4 Romulan, and a crew member, and they think he's a spy. And it gets into zealotry. It gets into allegiance, zealotry, a little bit of identity. It gets into wonderful things, and I love the ending of that episode. Absolutely do watch this one. Is the price of freedom is everlasting vigilance. There are always people that are trying to take it away from you. There's those who want to subvert, and the worst people that will do it are those who claim to who shower themselves in good deeds for the greater good. That are the ones that are most likely to destroy your freedom, destroy your independence, and take away all the nice things. Of course, a lot of people know that I'm very critical of liberalism politically, and that I don't believe in rights, actually. But, my politics aside, it's a very interesting episode into what happens with my ideology clashes with liberalism, and it's fairly interesting. Of course, this ends up with Redemption, which is the start of the Klingon Civil War, and that rings into Season 5, so we'll skip over to that. Okay, give me a second here. Basically, this Klingon Civil War comes off in Season 5, and, Worf is over there helping Martok, not Martok, I'm sorry. What the hell is his name? He's before Martok. The jackass. Gowron, yeah, he helps the forces of Gowron defeat the Duras. And of course, you've got, you have Picard are figuring out and showing that the Romulans are engaged, and you have Data take command, and of course you have the guy who's a bigot to Data in episode 2. Pretty good stuff. In Redemption Part 2, pretty good stuff. A lot of major character moments, particularly for Data. Quite a little bit for Picard, a lot for Worf, and it shows tolerance, prejudice, and a whole list of things. It's pretty encompassing, and does quite a lot. Of course, by viewer request, we'll talk about Darmok, Season 5, Episode 2, and it talks about the challenges of communication and words. And basically what happens is that Picard is sent to negotiate a formal peace treaty with somebody, but even the universal translator doesn't get it right in the language, because the syntax of this alien language is based in stories, and you have to understand the stories to understand the language. And that's kind of amazing, and I don't know how doable this actually is, but it's a really interesting thing about... it's based in a metaphor, and it's really interesting, because I don't know how likely that is, or how well that language would actually work, but the entire purpose of this episode is to critically examine... critically examine communication, and that is, when we say something, is it taken in the way that it's meant? And it gets to the point where these two, like the Enterprise and this alien ship's about to have a fight, but Picard, learning the syntax and learning the understanding, explains and, basically is able to bridge the gap. And it's a really interesting episode. I could talk about this episode for a while, so I'm going to skip over that. Season 5, Ensign Rose shows up. We get into that. I'm not going to touch that too much. And of course, this is about the time I'm born. Episode 5 shows up literally the day before I'm born of this. But then, Season 7, Season 8, Unification. This is where Spock is there. There's a lot that goes on here. It's a 2-part episode. The first part really deals with the idea of having a common unity and coming together in Season 6, there are only 4 lights, chain of command. We'll definitely talk about that. Unification talks a lot about having a common identity and coming together for the greater good. And then the Unification Part 2 largely deals with the fact that people who will tear you apart or use that against you to destroy you from the inside. A lot of it's a little kind of crazy there in Part 2, but it's interesting. So, good episode, has a lot, just kind of skipping over it because I'm going to hit this in its own individual review. I'm not seeing anything in Season 5 quite yet that I really like. The First Duty, Episode 19. Wesley Crusher is in the Academy, and he's involved in a cover-up because somebody dies. That's actually a really good episode, because it's Picard's speech of the first duty of every Starfleet officer is to the truth, whether it be personal truth or statistical truth, or I can't remember, but the personal truth is what hanged out to me. Tom Paris is there, but he's a different character. Now, supposedly, that's technically retconned, because his name isn't Tom Paris, but the general thing here supposedly is that this character is retconned to where his character is now Tom Paris, and the reason he's serving in a Federation penal colony is because of what happens in the events of this episode, which is interesting. And technically that's not canon, but it's pretty much headcanon for everybody. Just going up the levels here, you have Iborg, which is you get Hugh. That episode, I don't have a problem with this episode. It's actually really good because it asks questions about individuality, and it asks questions about like who you are versus yourself versus the collective. Really good stuff, but they piss on it come later, because like at first it's really important, and it apparently fucks over the entire collective, which makes no sense. But then it's pretty much retconned over to where Hugh's importance is negligible, if anything. And of course, you end up Season 5 with the 2-parter Times Arrow, which is them going back to San Francisco back in the 1900s and seeing Guinan. Fantastic stuff in that regard. Good episode. It's more event-driven than character-driven, which is unfortunate, but it does have some fun stuff. Relics is pretty good. That is where Scotty comes back, and you get to see him. Unfortunately, it breaks a little bit of canon regarding to James T. Kirk, but this is the episode with the Dyson Sphere, among a few other things. Pretty good stuff, but more event-driven than character-driven. The one thing about the characters is that you have the exchange between Scotty and LaForge over, just because you're old does not mean you're obsolete. Some good stuff. Really like this. And so, in a general sense, really enjoyed this. Really like the show. Really like that episode, but it's a little bit more plot driven than it is the characters, but there's still quite a bit going on there. Going through the last, okay, the next one and the thing is was requested Chain of Commands Part 1 and 2, but basically Picard is captured and he is tortured, and this is some really good stuff. And I know I'm saying this a lot, but I'm giving the highlight reel, right? What happens is Picard is captured, he is tortured, and it gets into the efficacy of torture. Is it useful? Is it not? Largely just says no. And what the whole focus is of the part 2 of this particularly is that what the hostage taker is trying to do is subvert reality for Picard. He's trying to torture him to the point to where what he has is 4 lights behind him, and everyone keeps talking about it because it's so it's kind of a meme, but it has a major purpose. And I think I don't know if people remember it because of the meme, or if they remember it because of the inner meaning behind it. The entire meaning behind this, in a nutshell, is that can you fuck with somebody so bad that you can fundamentally alter the reality, either to the point where they're compliant with your lies, or they actively start seeing what isn't real. And that's a really good conversation. It's a really good ethical question. And metaphysical question, and it's a really good episode. Because, anyway, the whole thing, 4 lights behind you, and what he tries to do is convince Picard that there's 5. And he keeps telling him, no, there's 5 lights, and he tortures the shit out of him until he almost gets there. And, of course, at the very end, is that you have Picard get released, he screams there's 4 lights, but you have the very last scene, and Picard's like, I would have done anything to end that. And at one point, I wasn't sure if I was actually seeing 5 lights or if I was willing just to say that there was. And that's a huge cliffhanger. Like, not cliffhanger, but it's a huge, impactful moment. And it does sci-fi to its very best. It makes you think about it. It makes you feel a very certain way. Would you hold out, or would you have lied? Would you have said it? Would you have meant it? Yes, Chain of Command Part 2. In particular, has a massive metaphysical question in there. It is not to be misunderstood. It is to be taken very seriously. What happens in the presence of pain and malice? Are you willing to, Are you willing to subscribe to the effects of pain and malice to live with it? And so, very interesting. Face of the Enemy is really good. Troy is basically neck deep as a Romulan officer. It's a weird episode. I don't remember it very well. I want to rewatch it again. Pretty good stuff. The very next episode is my personal favorite. That is Tapestry. Picard dies. Picard dies. He's sent back in time by Q to be able to right the wrongs of his past. Turns out when he rights the wrongs of his past, his entire modern life falls apart because the whole point of the episode is, if you don't make the mistakes of your past, you probably don't learn who you are to become the person that you are later. You don't take the initiative. Sometimes, you make a lot of decisions in your youth that doesn't always pay off, right? And so you would think, wow, I definitely would have done something different. But if you don't take the risks, if you don't do some stupid shit, you don't learn from it, you don't become the greater man or the greater woman that you can be later in life. That's literally the point of wisdom. And there is so much good that happens within this episode, and it's wonderful. That I can tap on. I almost could do an episode review just on this alone. It is that good, and it's my favorite for a reason. Anyway, there's Birthright, which follows that episode. It's a 2-parter split revolving around Worf and the Klingons and Romulans and all this other stuff. But basically, the whole thing is that. It's kind of a sins of the father, original sin kind of thing, and also, what's the word here? It's also about, righting the wrongs of the past. There's a lot of sub details here that are very important. It's a very good episode, definitely worth a watch. Let me see, what else do we got here? Bright Flare isn't terrible. Second Chances is actually pretty good. Starship Mine has Tim Ross, a.k.a. Tuvok. Tuvok's pretty good. We'll talk about him in Voyager. Okay, but anyway. Second Chances, episode 24 of season 6, is Riker goes to an 8-year-old mission to retrieve important data and finds the duplicate version. This ends up being Thomas Riker. He has some plot points later on in DS9 that shows up. I think it fucks some stuff up, and I'm not very happy with it. But it actually it's a really big meta question on what happens if, the choice is taken in life. It makes you question about... It's kind of like a secondary to Tapestry, where, are you happy with yourself? What happens if you're stuck in a bad situation? That kind of thing. Let me see. What's the last one? The last... So, Descent. The Borg return with a new way to travel through subspace and a vicious attitude that triggers strong feelings from a formerly emotionless data. I don't remember that one. Wait, is that the one with Lore showing up? I think it is. The two-parter with Lore. Okay, yeah. Okay, gets into season 7. We'll wrap this up because this is a great season. Not the best, but pretty good stuff. So you have Descent Part 2, which is Lore and the Borg, and it's just kind of crazy. Interface is pretty good. That's LaForge is looking to find out where his mother is. She goes missing. Turns out she's probably dead. Season 4, episode 4 and 5 is the Gambit, which is Picard goes undercover to stop some artifact looters. Riker gets captured. It's a fun little escapade, and it actually has some quite meanings. I need to rewatch it again because it's been a quick minute, and I don't remember what the original point of that episode was, but it's some good stuff. Inheritance. Hold on, mission. Oh yes. Inheritance is where Data deals with the crystalline entity, having killed people, and he has all their memories and whatnot. And then he meets somebody who claims to be his mother. It's really interesting, or at least if I think I've got the right episode. Of course, the big episode from this season, outside of the season finale, is the Pegasus. Riker's first commanding officer comes on and is like, "Hey, we gotta go find our old ship." And then you come to find out Riker was part of something that he didn't realize at the time was completely wrong and immoral. And you basically come full circle with this. Phantasm is good too. Did I skip over that? Oh yeah, okay, I see that. Episode 6. It is pretty good, and I kind of just skipped over it. But we'll definitely do that in the TNG review by itself, because we're already at 57 minutes. Holy crap. But anyway, the Pegasus is a standout within TNG, because they're not allowed to have cloaking technology, and it was a super cloak that was on the Pegasus. And it violates a treaty, it violates everything the Federation stands for, and basically what happened is that this is the first ship that Riker has ever deployed on, and he's just fresh out of the academy, and he basically helps out his captain and the people that are basically doing what he thinks later on is the wrong thing, because he just he sat there and he followed orders, and then come later he really regrets that. And he has to come full face to contend with it. And that's a good episode. It should have a little bit more of a blowback effect come later down, but it doesn't. The next one. And I'm skipping over a few of these because some of these are really good episodes. Like, this whole season's pretty stellar. But the next one, episode 15, is Lower Decks. About 4 junior officers endure a series of challenges to be eligible for promotion. And what happens is one of the people that is part of Wesley Crusher's cover-up is assigned to the Enterprise. Picard drills into her, trying to get her to prove herself, and she openly challenges her by being the antagonist. And of course, what eventually happens is that she dies in the line of duty, proving herself to be a courageous young woman capable of greatness. And it's unfortunate, but it's really good stuff. Oh, hey, Genesis. Okay, I was thinking about this. I thought this was earlier on. But this is when Picard and Data come back and find out that everyone's devolving. Quite a little... It's a fun little escapade, but I don't remember it having a major meaning. Journey's End is really good. This is episode 20. Picard is ordered to relocate a group of American Indians from a planet which they were settled. Wesley meets the Traveler again. Really good episode. Has so many meanings. Has a lot of different things, and it has quite a bit of a conversation about Native Americans and how they're treated today. That's still actually very relevant. It's kind of becoming irrelevant because just the Native peoples are dying out, but it has a lot to talk about the reservation system and how Native Americans have been treated, and basically, providing social conscience for that, and still relevant today. Great episode, particularly in the exploration of Wesley Crusher and the Traveler, even though it kind of ends on a weird note. Bloodlines isn't terrible. Let's see, a few other things, but anyway, finishing off, it's All Good Things, and I have so many good things to say about All Good Things. Wonderful character-driven moment, but I want to say this. I did the review for Generations already, and I want to compare that and contrast that. So definitely check out that in the Star Trek movies review. But everything that All Good Things does right, or Generations does wrong, but vice versa. Generations is largely worked into having most of the other characters, the side characters, that's Riker, Worf, Troy. Well, Troy's dead. I apologize. Or will kind of be dead. Spoilers. All Good Things, yes, was a great sign-off for the TNG. Overall, and honestly, I would have preferred All Good Things being the movie instead of Generations. But anyway, it's a great closing out. Q's message about the trial never ending, that you're constantly having to be better, and I love the whole thing where it's like, look, the future of humanity isn't studying stars, charting nebulas, all that stuff. It's about exploring the unknown possibilities of existence. Fantastic message and a great way to sign off on this series. Wonderfully done. Absolutely wonderful. There could have been more exploration into Picard, and they don't really sell the paradox that well that Q gets into. I wish they had done that a little bit better, but it explores the characters quite a bit towards the end when they talk about how basically everyone split up and went their separate ways, in time. And yes, the poker ending was perfect. Wonderful ending of the show, and it really kind of it really sings out. It really does. Wonderful ending of the show. Excuse me, I'm getting dried out a little bit. But anyway, to close this out, great show, great series, has a lot going on for it, and we're already an hour in, and we talked for 40 minutes just on TNG, but we still have a couple other shows to do. Let's just hammer on with this. I'm gonna get a little faster on this one because the problem with DS9, which we're getting into, is that with DS9 is that it's serialized. It's not about the individual episodes. It's about the grand overall narrative. Now, the first season or two, kind of bad with that. It's a lot more like normal episodes. It's a lot more like normal episodes, and it has some pretty good points with like what TNG is doing. Emissary is actually pretty solid, and it questions religion. It questions a lot of meaning. You get into the episode with Dax, where you talk about like inheritance, or not inheritance, but it's kind of original sin again, with like kind of taking up the sins of a former lifetime. There's some good episodes, but season 1 and 2, a little bit more like normal Star Trek and not what DS9 is really known for. But to get DS9, Avery Brooks, Captain Sisko, fantastic character. Kira Nerys, good character. Not Ezri Dax, Jadzia Dax, great character. I can't remember a lot of the names of these actors, but Armin Shimmer as Quark. You have Elam Garak. You have Odo. All of these characters are amazing, and I think they're actually, as characters, the best characters in Star Trek overall. This is a character-driven story through and through. Is that even though these are serialized and they don't have a lot of stand-alone episodes, is that these characters all get a lot of exploration. You know them more personally than any other character in any other Star Trek series. And if you want something that's very emotionally, very driven, definitely this show is for you. However, it does have some problems, particularly with the Dominion War and all this other stuff, which we'll get into later. But first 2 seasons, pretty solid. in that you get some explorations into all of these characters and what they're doing, but it's a little disjointed in the regards that there's not an overarching plot yet. A lot of standalones that are kind of world building. Season 3 is where it really takes off in the regards of being a cohesive show, and this show becomes itself. And the reason why is they get the Defiant. And what happens is like everything kind of blends together, where 2 seasons of world building and character building suddenly comes together into where there's that overall encouraging thesis of this is what's happening within this world, in this show, and they have a vehicle to explore that, which is the Defiant, and things happen. And I wish I could be a little bit more I wish I could be a little bit more involved with that. But in a general sense is that this is where the good and the bad of the show starts. Where you have it reach unparalleled heights, and that these characters are able to be explored and be explored and have plot events that really get into major things going on. And I think this really gets up into season 4, and I'm looking for the particular episode here. I'm trying to find it here. And I apologize for not being able to. Homefront and Paradise Lost. 2 episodes that are related. They're not a part 1 and part 2, but they technically are. This is basically in season 4, the Defiant and the DS9 crew goes to Earth, and Earth has a major happenstance where the Dominion bomb a Romulan and Federation conference, and it freaks out the Federation, because nothing like that has happened in 100 years excuse me. A lot of this goes to hell because basically the Federation starts becoming totalitarian. A bunch of admirals want to militarize Starfleet. We've seen this plot before, but it's really well done in this. Way of the Warrior, where in season 4, where Worf comes on board after TNG ends, really good too. There's a lot. Season 4 really takes off. It's great stuff. But unfortunately, season 4 is where, at the end, is where it starts going to shit. And it's not that it goes into a terrible show. And basically, I'll put it this way: TNG does this. Starts out slow, builds up, gets better. DS9 does this. And it's like a bell curve. It gets really good, but then it starts getting crappier as it goes on. Nog and Rom, great episodes. Garrick is almost incredible anytime he's on screen. So, Tyler, I'm just going to put it this way. Garrick is an amazing character. He's morally ambiguous, which I always love characters like that, because they're really good vehicles for exploring morality. But in a general sense, absolutely enjoyed... I really do enjoy the show. I like it a lot. I just don't want to go into the particular details like I did in TNG, because TNG stands out for each individual episode, versus where DS9 gets into it is that in Season 5, you get into the Dominion War and all these things that are going on. And it loses quite a bit of its meaning. And it's not that the Dominion War is bad. It explores some major overarching things, but it becomes so much of the focus that it drowns out a lot of everything going on from seasons 5, 6, and 7. And I'm probably going to jump off of this, and I know I've literally only spent 10 minutes talking about DS9 compared to TNG. It's not that it's bad. It's not that it's bad at all. These characters are wonderful. I'm glossing over it because I literally have to do this episode all to itself. And yes, it's a lot more actiony and a lot less sci-fi, and I do enjoy action sci-fi, but I really enjoy philosophical sci-fi, and DS9 really starts going all over the place with that, and it doesn't do that well. So yeah, to wrap up DS9, the characters are the best. The stories are give and take. I don't think it's as good overall story-wise as TNG, but still a great show. Absolutely wonderful. And I have them on comparative levels, just in different reasons. Let's move on to Voyager. I'm going to knock this out really quick. Voyager's kind of sucks. It's got 7 seasons as well. I'm not really a fan of Voyager. A lot of people aren't really either. It drags really bad. Janeway's a great character. Could have been explored a lot more. They really missed some opportunities. Chakotay is a token character. I hate to say that. He just is. He's not explored very well. His character's kind of lame. And just, they never really flourish him out. Tuvok's pretty good. They drop some balls with him, but they pick him up on in other places. And so, he's not too bad. Tim Russ is a great actor, by the way. B'Elanna Torres is a great character, but she's really weird. She doesn't get as much screen time as she probably needed, but she's a really interesting point of view character when she is the point of view character. The problem is that she's not focused on enough. She gets her moments, absolutely. But if it's not on her, she's actually really kind of lame, and she's actually she's not really put into. I'll put it this way: either she gets her focus and she's a wonderful character and a great vehicle for exploration, and basically she's really good about insecurities. She's a really good exploration into a character with insecurities. The problem is that if she's not talking, if it's not about her, she kind of comes off as a whiny bitch, or a problematic woman, and that doesn't do well. And it's a bit of a 90s motif, to be honest. Let's be honest here. But it's a product of its time. And I don't think B'Elanna Torres would have written the same way today. We'll get to some of those. Okay, Tom Paris, kind of the same problem. Like, all of these characters have, like, some moments where they're really good, for the most part, except Chakotay. And Neelix is kind of weird, too. But Tom Paris, it starts off really well, and then kind of loses his point, and they have to bring him back up by him getting married to B'Elanna. And that does actually help his character quite a bit, because he kind of maxes out his character come season 4. So yeah, that's him in a nutshell. Harry Kim, a lot of people are really iffy on Harry. Harry's not a bad character. He's boring for me. He's played off as way too naive, and way too, like, young for, being as experienced as he is. And particularly in the later seasons, he's just not even a believable character. Because he just doesn't really mature that much. And, like, he's probably the most underserved character outside of Chakotay. Is that the writers clearly cared about Harry Kim, just doesn't work. Yeah, Neelix is comic relief, and he's got a lot of character exploration, but he's kind of a jackass. And not in the way it's just like, he's kind of a blumbling idiot. And, if you like that kind of thing, he's like the nice idiot, hey, great. But he's just, I will never like that kind of character. He has his place, it works, just not my kind of character. Cass is kind of a waste of a character. Could have been made great, just dropped a lot of balls, particularly when she comes back in season 6. So who do we got left? The standout characters are the Doctor. Absolutely, the Doctor basically gets more character exploration than everybody else combined, and then seconded by 7 of 9, comes into season 4. Unfortunately, she's largely the pinup doll of the series, and that really does underserve her quite a bit. But in a general sense, and what I'm getting at here, is that she actually gets more character moments than most other characters do between her 4 seasons than other characters get in 7. And that sucks, but it's done very well because it explores the formation of individuality, it explores the innovation of the self, and she's actually a really good character vehicle. She's demigod level in some regards because she's got like all the knowledge of the Borg and all this. But suffice it to say is this. She's a little wonky as a character, but she's a great vehicle for what she's actually used for, and one of the best things to watch the show for. And I'm not actually talking about the physical look. Yes, Jeri Ryan is a very gorgeous woman, and, form-fitting spandex, If you like that, hey, go for it. I actually don't like the look personally, but, she was used as eye candy. I actually like her far more as the exploration of what that character is. So make it that way, you will. What am I forgetting? Am I forgetting any major characters? Help me out here, guys. The problem with this show is that it's disjointed as crap. There's massive tone changes, which isn't horrible, but it's a lot of bad. It's a lot of okay, and not a lot of great and good. Lone Runner really cast Netflix a new life for me. Okay, so I won't tag that because it's a rewrite, but at least for me, going forward, what are some outlines? Season 1's got a really good episode, like in the first couple episodes, where they find out Voyager figures out that they destroy a civilization. They have to stop that. That's a really good one. The episode about history, where the Doctor is left preserved in its holographic emitter in a program, and he's 700 years in the future, where Voyager is seen is revised as these conquerors and these warlike people, and the Doctor has to set the record straight. Wonderful episode. The Year of Hell, even though it's completely retconned within it because it's basically everything goes to shit and they have to rewrite Time to fix it. Wonderful episode. Problem is, literally one of the best episodes, The Year of Hell, is literally wiped out of existence within its own universe. So, Neelix is actually a tragic character, but the audience is just irritated at him. Yes, he's annoying and kind of dumb, but he's actually he is a tragic character, and they don't really sell it that well. He's underutilized, he's undersold. Okay. So yeah, goddamn, Voyager, just something else entirely. Could have been better, could have been worse. But it's getting into the bad category, and I don't blame people for getting in the franchise fatigue with Voyager. All right, cool. Would I recommend it? Not really. Can you watch it? Yes. And Janeway is definitely a role model. There's Icheb minor character though. Yeah, Icheb's kind of underserved. He's basically 709 2.0, and he's just there's no point for his character. Okay. Going forward with this is that Voyager just doesn't hit the boxes for me in the way that it should. But don't worry, I will eventually do. Yes, I agree with that. Year of Hell is literally what Voyager should have been from the go. Seska is cool too. Is that the Cardassian traitor? Or the Cardassian spy? Can't remember. I will eventually do one for DS9. The only reason I just did that in like 10 minutes is that DS9 you need to be able to talk about the whole story from start to finish, and I just don't have the time for that in this particular episode, so this is an overview. Voyager, kind of episodic, kind of grand. It's like a mix between DS9 and TNG. Just doesn't do it very well. But yes, I agree. Seska was interesting, but she's kind of not a focus enough. So sure. Let's skip to the next one real quick to finish this out. Or not to finish this out, but to get getting in there is you have Enterprise. 4 seasons is canceled. I actually like Enterprise a little bit. I'm not going to say more than Voyager because it goes to shit. Season 1 and Season 2 are great. Have some problems, but... Has some problems, but I like the characters, I like the exploration, I like the world building. A lot of it's pretty solid for Season 1, Season 2. Got a few episodic stuff, got a little bit of balance and serialization. Really good mix, really good plot, all that. Nothing wrong with this with Enterprise. Season 3, from the start, goes to absolute dog shit. The Xindi arc is incredible. The entire arc is about the Xindi arc and how they're supposed to stop them and all this. It's absolutely terrible. And Season 4 does a little bit to escape that, but between the temporal Cold War, which gets a little fucking crazy, which largely is supposed to be wrapped up at the start, the problem is that a lot of the effects from Season 3, which should be kind of canceled because of the temporal Cold War going into effect, is that they're still left there as artifacts, and they don't, it doesn't get rewritten. And that Season 4 suffers for that quite a bit. Is that the Federation kind of goes on a different trajectory, and it kind of breaks the world a little bit for me, but I largely blame Season 3 for this, and all of the bullshit that Season 3 does. But Season 4 actually tries to right the boat, and to some degree it does so. And I think Season 5 would have been pretty good. There was a lot of good things I was really seeing there with Season 4, with basically the early stages of the formation of the Federation. Terra Nova is a really good episode in exploring like human human bigotry towards aliens and whatnot, and that could have been a whole season to itself. So let's talk about the characters a little bit. Scott Bakula is cast as Captain Jonathan Archer. Fantastic character. A lot of fun. You've got, I think his name's Jonathan Reed, who is basically the armaments officer, the weapons officer. Not bad. He's a little two-dimensional, not three-dimensional, which kind of sucks, but not a bad character. Just not amazing character. Chief Engineer, give me a second here. Why do I want to say Chris Tucker? God damn it. Tucker. I had it in my head and I lost it. Anyway, the Chief Engineer, great character. Somebody remind me in chat. Wow, Twitch, thanks for yelling at me. Tyberius is streaming as of 2 seconds ago. I've been streaming for 4 hours and 15 minutes. But anyway, somebody remind me what the Chief Engineer is. Give me a second here. Give me the notification. Okay, cool. Give me a second here. You just call him Tucker for most of it, yeah. I can't remember his real name. Trip Tucker. They call him Trip. But his name's Charles Tucker. Okay, yeah, he's just largely Tucker. Anyway, he's a great character. Wonderful. Gets a lot of... Yes, I am up early. Anyway, wonderful character. Really enjoyed this character a lot. Has more backstory than probably anybody else. I love his backstory. He's basically a good old Southern boy. Very interesting. Very well done. The problem I have with this character is he's really underserved in his last moments, and it could have been better. I mean, he's basically written out in a kind of a shitty way. I like what happens overall narratively, but it could have been better. His romance with the Vulcan, god damn it, I'm sorry, I'm getting tired, and I think it's starting to show, so I'll start wrapping this up as I can, is that his romance with the Vulcan character is actually pretty believable, pretty nice, and actually makes a lot of sense. I do like that exploration a bit. Could have been better, but it was definitely not bad by any stretch of the imagination. You've got Hoshi Sato as the communications officer before the Universal Translator is built. She basically builds it. Wonderful character. I really enjoy her a lot. She's the standout female role in this show. Absolutely believable, has a lot going. T'Pol, yes. Majaline Ballock, thank you very much. T'Pol's not a bad character, but again, she's got the eye candy thing going on for her a lot. You know, spandex, form-fitting suit. And unfortunately with the Vulcan thing is that she's basically kind of like a Spock, but an angsty Spock. And it's kind of annoying. She could have been better. She could have been worse, but comes off as a, angsty woman. Again, late 90s, early 2000s kind of motif that really was out of place by this point. Unfortunately, my connection's garbage. Sorry to hear that. You had the Doctor, which isn't bad. Was it Quox? Something like that? Phlox. Yeah. Could have been better. Could have been worse. He doesn't get as much exploration as he needed to, or at least he's not memorable for me. I'm looking at some other people here. Give me a second. Lieutenant Malcolm Reed was the guy I was talking about. And yeah, this show has a problem with being a prequel. Is that it definitely doesn't go that well. But Reed's an interesting character, but not good enough. Let me see who this guy is. Travis Mayweather. He is really good and really bad. Gets plenty of exploration in some regards, and then is completely deadpan at another point where he's completely boring and uninteresting. And so he could have had a lot more going for him. But I did like his character overall. There's a few other people in here that I could probably get into, but here's the problem. To put Enterprise in a nutshell, to put it in perspective, it's not a horrible show, but it's pretty bad. Reality bites and the reason the rise of the angsty women. I don't know exactly where you're going with that. The problem that I have is that I don't have a problem with a tough as nails female character. Janeway does this very well. It's the women that come off as like kind of grumpy and that what people would call it bitchy, but doesn't have any kind of like substance to back it up. Where it's like, hey, I'm gonna kick your ass, take names, and do so. That falls through for me, and that's a really bad way to do a female character. And unfortunately, with a lot of male writers, that tends to happen a lot. And I think that's actually one of the things that's good to change. Watch Reality Bites. It will be clear. Okay, fair enough. Anyway, so to finish out on Enterprise, I'll simply say this. The show could have been a lot better. It kind of sucks. It could have redeemed itself come season 4 and maybe into a season 5, but it was canceled. And a lot of people said that it had franchise fatigue. Probably some volition to that. Star Trek had been on the air from 1987 all the way up into, or 1987, 1988, something like that, all the way up into 2004, 2005, something like that. So yeah, maybe it was time to call it quits. Don't know. But yeah, Enterprise could have been better, definitely, but we'll never know. Anyway, going ahead forward, there actually is claims that they were trying to get Netflix and Hulu and all these other people to do a season 5, but I don't think CBS would ever let that happen. I guess we'll hit the bite the bullet just to finish this out real quick because we got the time. Is that my thoughts on Picard and Lower Decks, and I'm going to tag in the Orville on this a little bit. Supposedly, I'm going to tag the Orville. It's not Star Trek, but it's actually more Star Trek-esque than CBS has all access. They have, yeah, okay, fair enough. Anyway, I remember at one point TNG, Voyager, and DS9 were airing about the same time. TNG and DS9 were on at the same time. TNG Season 6 is going on with DS9 Season 1. And then I think the same thing largely happens with Voyager and DS9. But Voyager and TNG are not on at the same time. They're off by about like two years or something like that. 2 or 3 years. But, yeah, anyway. Anyway, let's talk Orville real quick. Orville was from what I understand, was originally pitched to CBS by Seth MacFarlane to be the next Star Trek. And if my information is correct, they turned it down. Way to go, you fucking jackasses, because it's the best Star Trek that I've seen that isn't Star Trek. And it's better than half the Star Trek shit you guys have been putting out. So, hey, CBS, fuck you. So there's my hot take, is that Orville is great Star Trek, it's great fun, and I really hope we get to see a season 3, because I consider it basically Star Trek. Okay, cool. That's in its own thing. Next we have Picard. Picard's only been done season 1 as of this review, and I fucking hated it. I watched it. It was interesting. Action, sci-fi, thriller, expense kind of thing. Just completely takes a big old piss on TNG. And I'm not really happy for that. I'm really sad to see a lot of these characters happen, basically what it is. The long story short, Picard, kind of interesting. Picard's just too old for the role that he's been given. Jonathan Frakes as Riker comes back, pretty cool. Deanna Troi, pretty cool. And the only thing that I'll give is that Jerry Ryan 709 is pretty much a badass. The only problem is that the problem with this show is that it's not Star Trek. It does very well, and like as a continuation of Star Trek universe. The problem is that it's literally anti-hopium. It is dark. It's depressing. And for me, the point of Star Trek is to give a hopium-fueled version of what the future is. You're not 40K. Warhammer 40K, if anyone knows the reference. That's not what Star Trek is. That's the antithesis. You want to be dark, you want to be gruesome, you want to make the future universe look like shit. That's what 40K does. Star Trek, it's supposed to be hopium-fueled. And this is not what Picard is at all, and it really kills the vibe for me. Particularly considering it's focused around TNG characters. Oh my god. Okay, so anyway, yeah, Picard doesn't work for me. I will watch season 2, but I'm not impressed. Discovery. I apologize. I just skipped Discovery. Season 1's a joke. I absolutely hate season 1. It's fucking terrible. Season 2's solid. And it's amazing, like the difference in what the show is. I'm not going to talk a lot about it. because it's still in production too. Anyway, it's weird. Season 1 sucks. I fucking hated it. The spore drive's annoying. Season 2 is really good because it's kind of like a return to traditional Trek with Christopher Pike and whatnot. It's got some good things going about it, but it's making some improvements. Season 3 blows. Season 3 is literally just like a return to Season 1, just in a different form, and I fucking hate that too. So yeah, it's got a shining example of Season 2. I'm really interested to see if the spinoff with Pike and all that works. I'm really interested to see that because that's really what showed Season 2. But yeah, anyway, yeah, Discovery just fucking is... It's got the prequel problem, which is alluded to just in chat just a second ago. Absolutely agree with that. But more in general is that it's fucking... It's terrible. It's a retcon with the spore drive. It absolutely breaks the universe. Just a bunch of dumb shit happens. I hate Season 1 because it's way too focused on the mirror universe. A lot of the characters are kind of ridiculous, particularly Michelle Burnham. Burnham's character. Riker would fucking beat her face in. Spock would beat her face in. Like, she's just annoying and like, oh my god, fuck this character. Okay, cool. So, Discovery, yeah, Season 2 is the only good part about it so far. And then, of course, we got Lower Decks, which is animated. A lot of people don't like Lower Decks. I love Lower Decks. It's the best Star Trek that I've seen since Star Trek pretty much came back on the air. And I know that's a hot take for people, but that's another one. Star Trek Lower Decks is pretty solid. I'm liking the first season. It's not too serious, and it's not unserious enough. It's got a really good balance. It's basically the Star Trek show made for Star Trek fans by Star Trek fans. And I like it's pretty good. I hate Lower Decks. It's effing Rick and Morty. Okay, people have told me that. I hate Rick and Morty. Like, I do. I think it was stupid. I can't stand the show. A lot of people say that Rick and Morty is the exact same show as Lower Decks. I don't see it. Maybe it's just because it's put in the guise of the Star Trek universe and done that way that it works for me. But I don't know how you compare these two shows for me. Rick and Morty is just dumb for me. It's just dumbass like humor trying to be smart. Excuse me. Lower Decks is not the case for me. And so, yeah, I will suffice it to say, coming out here with the end, that I really enjoyed Lower Decks so far. I can't wait for Season 2. It's the only thing I'm looking for outside of the Orville. But anyway, we've been going for an hour and 30 minutes, so plenty of content for you guys. Most of it was around TNG, and I'll definitely be doing more Star Trek content coming down the line. What you feel for Rick and Morty is what I feel for Lower Decks is dumb. Fine, we'll have to disagree on that, but I thank you for being here, sir. Absolutely appreciate it, or ma'am. Anyway, absolutely appreciate everyone being here. We picked up quite a number of follows here on Twitch tonight. We've been doing a 4.5 hour stream. Definitely, if you are watching this on the recorded thing, follow me on Twitch. Make a little Twitch account. Doesn't take much at all. Hell, if you want, come support me. You can do the donations and the tips. But if you want to watch me recording live, definitely come do that. Totally doable. Great times. Had all around. Anyway, I've been Tyberius D. This is my review of the overarching Star Trek shows, just in a nutshell. And yeah, I can't wait to do each individual series. I probably won't do TOS, just because of that. But TNG, DS9, Voyager, they'll definitely get their own, and it's time for bed. So yeah, got everything up recorded. We'll definitely be seeing you guys soon. Contact me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. If you really want to see, or if you want to, let me know what you think. Leave comments down below. If you're watching this on YouTube, go check out my other stuff, whether it's the geopolitical content. We just did a massive recording on the Cold War and explaining what was going on there. If you want to watch Mask Off podcast every Sunday is fantastic, and you can catch that anytime later on in the week on my YouTube channel. And so without further ado, I'm calling it quits here. It's been absolutely great to be with the stream tonight. It's been absolutely great to be with YouTube whenever you're watching me. Please let me know what you think. Please share this, and if you really want to support me, definitely hit up the links and donations and all that wonderful stuff down below. All the links down below. Anyway, I've been Tyberius D. It's been fun.